The design on the XFX Speedster SWFT 319 can be best described as sober. It's a simple, tried and true formula that goes well with black-colored PCs. Unlike the Merc 319 and QICK 319, the SWFT 319 has no words written on the backplate, which is a plus point. The large branding is too loud for my taste and cheapens the card's overall look. It also has two 8-pin power connectors, but sadly, there is a BIOS switch button missing. XFX should have added a BIOS switch, considering this was one of the highest-end GPUs of the previous generation. The specs of the RX 6800 are its strongest talking points. It has a large 16GB GDDR6 VRAM buffer that's connected to a 256-bit bus and a gigantic 128MB L3 cache. This nets the card a bandwidth of 512 GB per second, so even some 4K gaming is possible on this GPU. And speaking of 4K performance, some games like Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Borderlands 3 run at 4K 70 frames per second, but games like Cyberpunk 2077 drop down to about 40 to 50 frames per second. If you do, however, use this GPU for 1440p gaming, then it should last you a very long time, as any game would work easily and give out an average 80 to 90 frames per second. With such good AAA performance, it also has top-notch esports performance and can be used for running any game at 1440p and 120 frames per second. When it comes to alternatives, there are a lot of different options to choose from, like the RTX 3080 and AMD's own RX 7700 XT. In terms of price and performance, all three of these GPUs are nearly identical, especially at 1440p. But the reason why I prefer the RX 6800 every time over the other two is the massive 16GB VRAM and excellent power efficiency. Surprisingly, the RX 6800 consumes the least power of all these GPUs. For example, in games like Hogwarts Legacy, the RTX 3080 consumes more than 300 watts, and the RX 6800 consumes just around 190 watts of power, while being only 4 to 5 frames per second slower. There is one area where the RX 6800 is going to lag behind both the RTX 3080 and the RX 7700 XT, and that is ray tracing. Keep in mind that this was AMD's first attempt, while both the 3080 and 7700 XT are second-generation ray tracing cards, so their performance is undoubtedly going to be better. In some games, the RTX 3080 can be 20% faster, but in others, it can be twice as fast. There are instances when the RX 6800 closes the gap a lot, and that is thanks to the slightly bigger VRAM buffer. Ray tracing requires a lot of VRAM, and once the game starts hitting the 10GB limit of the RTX 3080, the RX 6800 quickly catches up. In conclusion, the RX 6800 should serve anyone well given its 16GB VRAM buffer, and can deliver similar gaming performance as the Xbox Series X in any title. To sum up what I like is the top-of-the-line cooling performance even at a very low budget. It can offer budget 4K gaming performance and the incredible power and heat efficiency. On the downside, it lacks dual BIOS support and decent but inconsistent ray tracing performance. Our rating for PCB design is 8.5 out of 10. Performance, 9.5 out of 10. Aesthetics and cooler design, 8.5 out of 10. Value for money, 9.5 out of 10 for an overall rating of 9 out of 10.